It's time for Waking Up with Wesley. Today's forecast and weather-wide discussion with WLOX First Alert Weather's senior meteorologist, Wesley Williams.
Hello there, South Mississippi, and thank you for waking up with Wesley. I'm Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams. Happy Wednesday. The second week of December still underway, and it's still drier than it was last week. We're not talking a whole lot about rain chances, which is why we're going to focus a whole lot on temperatures. And it sure was cold this morning. We found a whole lot of frost out there, but now that the sun is rising during the 8 o'clock hour, I think that we are seeing some improvement. And speaking of sunrise, we'll take you to that time lapse during the 6 o'clock hour earlier this morning, showing that time lapse of the sunrise in Gulfport. Just gorgeous. We also had a picture sent to us from Bay St. Louis. This was Jenny, her view of the Bay St. Louis sunrise there near the harbor. Oh my gosh, that is so picturesque. It's just relaxing, calming to the soul to see that peaceful view. And here's one more for you from Biloxi. This is Brenda's shot of the same sunrise right there along the shoreline. How tranquil. And of course, a big thank you to our viewers who always send us those pictures. We love to showcase the beauty of our Mississippi coast. You can always submit your pictures and videos to the WLOX weather app. And you might even see them right here on Waking Up with Wesley, or of course on our other television products. So anyway, here's a look at the temperatures during the 8 o'clock hour. Still seeing some 30s. It's not as cold as it was a few hours ago. We're seeing mostly 40s on the map, but there are some places that do find some 30s. We didn't just see some frost earlier today, but we actually had some fog earlier today too. But now that we're getting later into the morning, the rising sun is helping to clear any of that away. And so basically all we're left with here is just a pretty nice day, beautiful weather today, and milder. You know, this whole week we haven't had 60 degrees yet, but we're going to get it today for the first time this work week. It's not going to last very long because a cool front comes in tonight and brings us a short-lived cool down tomorrow, which also doesn't last very long because we'll return to milder weather heading into Friday and the weekend. So we do have kind of a temperature roller coaster. We're going up and up again, and then down again over the next 7 days. Here's a look at the hour-by-hour information. Our WLOX weather app showing plenty of sunshine today, but you see that wind? Remember, whenever you see wind, a lot of people get tripped up by this. It tells you, when meteorologists tell you the wind direction, it's telling you where the wind is coming from. So a wind from the west, right? A west wind means a wind blowing from the west to the east. And you can see that most of the day we're getting a wind generally from the west. At times it might even be from the southwest. And then there's that front that gets here. Our winds go to the from the northwest by tonight, and that will begin us pulling in cooler air from the north. So let me show you what that looks like on a map. So here's today. There's the front that's coming in for tonight. It'll probably get here around or before midnight. And so for most of the first part of your Wednesday, we're just seeing these winds generally coming in from the west. So we're not really tapping, I think, directly into much cold air for the most part. But then we go to tomorrow, and we are going to see a much more northerly component to that wind along the Mississippi coast. So that is what's going to pull in some cooler air for us tomorrow behind that cool front. So, but it doesn't last very long because this cool front is on the move, and by the time we get to Friday, it's out of the picture. And now we're tapping into, look at this wind coming in again from the south, from the west. And this is helping us to pull in some warmer conditions as we go to Friday, as well as Saturday. So this is what that means for those temperature numbers. Today, we're going to be into the upper 60s in most areas, which is going to be the warmest day of this week so far. So even though this morning you're stepping out the door, you're bundling up, dress in layers, because I think you're going to be able to shed some of those layers by this afternoon when temperatures rise to the 60s. You might even be able to enjoy some sunshine in short sleeves later today. But this morning, you definitely want to be bundled up. It's been quite chilly. We are going to see a return to cold conditions tonight. So if I briefly pop up the forecast for tonight, it will show temperatures that do get cold again. We are expecting lows to drop into the 30s for much of the area. Only exception will be a couple of spots right along the coast. So we could see some spots along the coast around 40, but in general, expect it to be cold again for you tonight. I can pop up what that map looks like. Let's go back to the today map, and we'll just on the fly show you the tonight temperature map to give you an idea of what numbers we could be looking at. So that's a general ballpark idea of how cold it could be again overnight tonight into early Thursday morning. And we're seeing plenty of 30s, right? So don't expect it to be mild tonight. We're getting a cool front to get here before midnight, and cooler air will be moving in by early tomorrow, and that's how we get to those cooler conditions. Now here's tomorrow afternoon. You know, this afternoon we're around 70. Tomorrow afternoon only 60, right? So in some cases you might not even hit 60 tomorrow. So that's that cool front that we will feel the effects of going into your Thursday. So if you're not a fan of cool weather, enjoy today while it's a little milder, and then brace for tomorrow, because it's going to be on the chilly side tomorrow. But at least there's plenty of sun, so that's one nice feature. And remember, this is December, so to have a high around 60, that's not that far from our normal high in the lower 60s. Now, Friday, back to the warmer stuff. We're going to be around 70 degrees for a high. So that is going to be back to milder weather. So if you're not a fan of cooler days, you really only have that one Thursday to kind of put up with that tomorrow. By the time we get to Friday, it will still be cool in the morning. Probably going to see some chilly 40s in the morning. But at least by Friday afternoon, we're heading for a high around 70, which is going to be quite nice, I would say. So let me show you what that looks like here. I want to pop up our 3-day weather forecast, or weather outlook rather. I think I have to find it. There's so many different graphics here. I apologize. I've misplaced my 3-day. I thought I had it here, but I can't seem to find it. I really wanted to show that to y'all too, but I guess it ain't here. So it was really cool because it showed the highs and the lows for both the inland and the coastal zones. Maybe if I don't put a space between 3 and D. Aha! It was 3-day without a space between the 3 and the D. So anyway, now that I have that, let's pop that up and see what that looks like to show you the next 3 days, because they're not going to be built the same. Right. I know your calendar still says winter, or rather still says fall right now, but we're going to see some not so fall-like weather here, as it's milder, then cooler, then milder. A lot of ups and downs here over the next 3 days. So today, your mild day with those highs into the upper 60s. Tomorrow, your relatively cooler day with a high around 60. And then as we go to Friday, a relatively milder day with the highs returning to the upper 60s, if not lower 70s on that day. So definitely watching out for that. And we'll wrap up the video showing you the rest of the 7-day, because there is one more cool down coming. It is over the weekend. We get a weekend cool front. That one probably moves into the area at some point late Saturday, if not into early Sunday. And so before that front gets here, maybe a spotty pop-up shower on Friday and Saturday. It will not amount to much. There's not a lot of moisture to work with here. Look, if you want to talk rain chances, look at today. Not one piece of moisture to make any rain. It's a dry Wednesday. And when that front comes in tonight, there's no moisture for it to make any rain. Hardly enough moisture for it to make any clouds. So dry front tonight into tomorrow. We go to Friday, and we are beginning to see that moisture returning from the Gulf, and you can see those winds coming in from the southwest, so might help us to find slightly higher humidity. I doubt it will even be noticeable, and there's still just barely enough moisture for any rain, so the chance for rain on Friday 10 to 20%, if that. I think that's really kind of overdoing it, but it's not going to be much. There's your Saturday. Again, barely any moisture here, right? In order to see like decent moisture for rain, we would not be watching for green. We would be watching for like yellow, orange, or red. We're really not seeing much of that showing up over the Mississippi coast on Saturday. So we're just barely getting into enough moisture for just a little bitty, teeny tiny pop-up isolated shower, if that. Now, our attention on Sunday will turn away from these areas near the Gulf and instead turn to look up here, since we're going to begin to see a cool front coming in from the north and west. So let's see if we see any moisture with that. And no. So again, just a drier pattern there as we go from the weekend, and it's going to completely dry out into next Monday. So if you're worried about those rain chances, worry not. They're pretty low, and if we keep seeing this trend, we might even see those 20% drop to 10%, maybe drop to 0% as we monitor the upcoming days adjustments to the forecast. But remember, with that front coming in early Sunday, what that'll do for our temperatures is it keeps us mild on Friday and Saturday. We'll be around 70. But then the front comes in Sunday. We're going to have probably some weird temperatures on Sunday. I bet Sunday morning will be warmer than Sunday afternoon. So we'll probably see temperatures start off in the 60s on Sunday and then eventually fall maybe into the cooler 50s by Sunday afternoon. And it will be breezy, those breezy winds coming in from the north, pulling in the cooler air. Monday morning could be quite cold. Right now we are forecasting lows in the 30s Monday morning, which is the coldest you see on this 7-day forecast, 37 on the coast, with I think 36 or 35 inland. However, some of the new information coming in this morning is getting even colder for Monday morning. I'm telling y'all, it's showing stuff like 20s and such. That's not in our official forecast yet because I want to wait for more information, more runs of those models to see if a consistent trend unfolds or if it's just kind of barking up the wrong tree. But that is going to be the morning to watch as we make these daily adjustments to the forecast, because if these trends hold, that 37 is probably going to need to come way down as we keep adjusting the numbers each day, as it could be maybe a light freeze in parts of our area, or at least a moderate freeze in parts of our area. So that's kind of a look at next week. From Sunday into next week, we are going to see those cooler conditions. Sunday's falling temperatures and a chilly Monday and a pretty cool Tuesday of next week with those cold mornings in the 30s, at least in today's update to the forecast. Well, that'll pretty much do it for this edition of Waking Up with Wesley. I've been senior meteorologist Wesley Williams. We'll see you again next time.
Thank you for watching Waking Up with Wesley with WLOX First Alert Weather Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams.